What's up guys, BltzZ here today bringing you another video. In today's video we got a little bit more information for Final Fantasy 16. This news is fairly small, but it shows the mindset and direction of the development team for Final Fantasy 16 and where they're planning to go in. Yoshi P, the producer of Final Fantasy 16 and the savior of Final Fantasy 14, had a radio interview and the interviewer asked him a few questions in regards to Final Fantasy 16. The interviewer asked what kind of game Final Fantasy 16 will turn out to be. Yoshi P stated that it'll focus a little bit more on gameplay and story elements. Specifically, he said, "We only released one trailer for now. As it shows, this time we are focusing on a lot of action. We're making a Final Fantasy game featuring a lot of action and story." In that very early footage trailer that was showcased during the PlayStation 5 reveal event, we got to see bits and pieces of the world of Final Fantasy 16 as well as what the actual gameplay will look like. Again, this footage is very early, so many of these things are subject to change, but for the most part it definitely did look action orientated and sort of straying further away from the traditional RPG gameplay. We don't know if this game will have things like ATB bars like Final Fantasy 7 Remake had, but the combat did look to be more along the lines of action games such as Devil May Cry, which was everyone's first impression when they first saw Final Fantasy 16. And then it was confirmed that they actually hired the Devil May Cry battle director to help out with the system for Final Fantasy 16, which I'm all for. There is still so much more to see with future trailers and game updates, but I'm hoping that they still find ways to make this game feel like Final Fantasy other than it just having the same name in the title. What I mean by that is, Final Fantasy 7 Remake did have plenty of action game elements, and it was very different from what the original game brought into the fold, but they still brought the ATB system into the game and had it blended together well with action elements, which personally I loved and I thought it was a great callback to the old system. The next question the interviewer asked Yoshi P was about the players who don't like action games. He said straight up, if you don't like action games but you love these videos, you should hit that subscribe button because only 27.3% of you guys that watch and love these videos are currently subscribed. Guys, being a subscriber is the best way to support the channel, especially on all these videos you guys love. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on a current live stream series of us playing Final Fantasy 6. It's my first time playing that amazing game, so make sure you guys don't miss out on a minute of it because we're having a ton of fun. Alright, but Yoshi P's real response was that he indicated there will be several modes to help these players out, as well as a support function to have the control scheme a little bit more simpler to pick up and play. This mode will help players focus more on the story content and enjoying that aspect about it a little bit more. In Final Fantasy 7 Remake, they had the classic game mode, which was supposed to let the computer control the character while the player has to worry about choosing actions after ATB bars fill up. It was a great idea, but still needs a lot of work to be perfected in my opinion. This very well could be one route that they go towards, but I do hope it's drastically improved on. In Final Fantasy 7 Remake, the classic mode was set by default to being an easy mode, so players couldn't really enjoy the difficulty aspect about it while using it. I'm all for multiple ways existing to play a game. This gives so many players a chance to enjoy the story and the characters who are not that great at action games, and more are along the lines of traditional RPG sort of style. Final Fantasy 7 Remake's developers have also stated in interviews that they are actively improving on their classic mode for the future, which is very cool to hear, so the future is looking bright as always. The last question the interviewer asked is about the story for Final Fantasy 16, which Yoshi P responded that there's not really much more he can say for right now. He's part of the generation that has been playing Final Fantasy since its beginnings at release. He's almost about 50 years old, so he's experienced a lot of things in his life, and he wants to make games that even those who know about how hard life can be at times can still enjoy. The kind of distress you experience after you become an adult. That's what I strive for with Final Fantasy 14 and the story of the Warrior of Light 2. I think Final Fantasy 16 will be a fantasy for those who grew up with Final Fantasy and also know the harsh reality of the world. I can't tell you more or I'll get yelled at. I think I already told you guys a lot. This definitely means that the story of Final Fantasy 16 will focus more on mature aspects, which if that couldn't have already been told already from the trailer, I don't know what to tell you guys. This Final Fantasy could go back to darker roots and make players feel something while also bringing new players into the fold to enjoy the journey. We definitely will be getting more information as this year rolls on. This game is still being polished, and this article also mentions at the end that the main scenario for Final Fantasy 16 has been completed. Now majority of what's left are gameplay mechanics, cutscenes, and boss battles. Basically the fine-tuning portion is among us, but they definitely have a ways to go. No release date is set just yet for Final Fantasy 16, but I think this year we will get another trailer for Final Fantasy 16. But the actual game won't be out until next year, 2022. Then Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2 could be out in 2023. Remember, these are two different teams that are developing Final Fantasy 16 and Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2. Many people in my previous videos comments have been complaining, saying that they'd rather them focus on Remake Part 2 instead of taking away time to develop Final Fantasy 16. I want to take some time to acknowledge that here instead of replying to you guys in the comments about it. So once again guys, the developers of Final Fantasy 16 are a completely different team from the people working on Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2. So relax and don't worry, these will not take time away from each other in their development cycles. And the reason why I say Remake Part 2 will come out after Final Fantasy 16 and in a different year, I just don't see Square Enix releasing two main titled numbered Final Fantasy games in 1 year. They would be taking away sales from each other, and not to mention it's their biggest game series. Not to mention Final Fantasy 16 is much further ahead in their development cycle than Final Fantasy 7 Remake Part 2 is. Be sure to check out our previous videos breaking down the lore behind Final Fantasy 16 and many others. Don't worry guys, the good times are coming. And that wraps it up for this video guys. Some Final Fantasy 16 news in some way because it's been a while since we last talked about it on this channel. Let me know what you guys think about Final Fantasy 16. Do you think it will be a great welcomed addition to the Final Fantasy series, or will you guys be skipping it at launch? Let me know in the comments below. Final Fantasy VI has been an amazing, fun game for me to be playing. For those who have not been able to attend the streams for Final Fantasy VI, I have some good news. Don't worry, I will be uploading the stream highlights and its entire series to the channel almost daily starting this week. We will be back streaming Final Fantasy VI on Friday to give you guys who were there last Friday a chance to attend again, because I know how busy you guys can get during the week, and I want to make sure everyone can enjoy this game with me. The experience has been an awesome one, and it's even better with all of you guys there too. Just remember, the highlights of Final Fantasy VI coming to the channel won't feature every single thing from the gameplay, as those live streams are posted in the playlist for you guys to enjoy on the channel. These will be much shorter segments compiling the big story moments and of course our stream dialogue and banter that you guys all love. This will be the first series of stream highlights coming to the channel, so when they drop, please let me know what you guys think of them, because I want to fine-tune it and meet you guys' standards and quality, of course. Thank you everyone who also showed up for the First Class Gamer interview that we had the other day. If you guys haven't yet, be sure to check out that stream, as it was posted just a few days ago, and it was an absolute fun one to make. We talked about the channel's origin and the future plans that we have in store for you all things considering Final Fantasy VII Remake as well. The Q&A was a ton of fun to do, and I plan to do more in the future, so be sure to hit that notification bell so you don't miss out whenever we have an update coming to the channel. I will be pushing towards getting Brianna White or John Eric Bentley onto the channel so we can ask them some questions in regards to Remake as well. All in due time, as these things are a process and take some time. Also, one more update, when more PlayStation 5s are in stock regularly, we will be doing more PS5 giveaways almost every month. So make sure you guys don't miss out on that and subscribe today. Shoutouts to Renee again for winning the PlayStation 5. I can't wait to get someone else into the fold, so be on the lookout guys. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed and subscribe if you are new. More Final Fantasy 16 news are coming your way and you won't want to miss that. My name is BltzZ and thanks for watching.